there's so many people that are not aware of themselves, or we can say that they're conscious, but they're really self-conscious. So they're aware of themselves, but they're aware of themselves in a self-conscious way where they're always overanalyzing, thinking about what the other person thinks about them, not really being present and in the moment and enjoying the benefits of life. Welcome to the Frontline Warriors Club, where we live it, not in it. Join us on this movement as we raise consciousness. You can find us on wearefrontlinewarriors.com. And now, let's take a breath to inhale, exhale, and let's begin.
In this episode, we are going to introduce and discuss our second pillar, Just Be. Just Be is focused on bringing awareness to yourself and everything around you. So this pillar stems down as a second pillar from the prior one, which is Live It, Not In It, which takes a focus more in a sense of what's around you. And Just Be is more of like just being within that moment in time.
Yes, Just Be is a form and it's a skill to understand awareness. So you're going to be aware of yourself, your body, how it's feeling, and your surroundings. And this directly ties into mindfulness. And I think mindfulness, we've been on this journey for a long time. Mindfulness allows you to finally understand your character, your unique feelings and emotions, and how you actually are in your body, and how are you responding to the external environment, and what you should be doing, and how you're gauging yourself. I feel like through our hospital experience, everything we've seen, there's so many people that are not aware of themselves, or we can say that they're conscious, but they're really self-conscious. So they're aware of themselves, but they're aware of themselves in a self-conscious way where they're always overanalyzing, thinking about what the other person thinks about them, not really being present and in the moment and enjoying the benefits of life.
Yeah, through Just Be, you really hone in and learn about yourself. Like you were saying, your emotions, your feelings, your desires. You have to learn that about yourself. You have to learn what makes you angry, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, because you are walking through life in your own sense and in your own shoes. So you have to understand yourself. And this is something that's kind of difficult to do early on when you're still pretty young. But when you step into like your 20s, 30s and beyond, you really have that developed frontal lobe, and you can actually think about things, and you could say this more of like in this fashion with Just Be. So you have to really learn what makes you angry, what makes you happy, because that's going to help you throughout life, not only bring happiness to yourself, but to bring others. Because how can you really be honest with somebody and really tell them about how you're feeling in this point in time without you actually knowing why you're feeling these things? How are you gonna ask somebody to change their ways if you don't understand how their actions impact you? That's why it's such a big step, and this is why it's step number 2, is because you really have to hone down on yourself and really learn about who you are as a person.
Yeah, that's what it means to be conscious living. And a lot of people I've realized they have these different glasses of perception, but they're not really understanding what it is to be fully embodied in consciousness and feeding yourself these good vibrations. One good example is emotions, right? Where we use our 5 senses to feel how we're feeling, or this situation is making us angry or sad or happy. But emotions are just like anything. They're navigation for our GPS to use to how to interact with life, which is just a direct self-reflection of yourself. So if the person is making you angry, or the person is making you jealous, you have to reflect that and ask yourself that question back, is why am I feeling like that? And also, these emotions and feelings, you're not meant to loop in them. So a lot of people have this like mental loop of guilt, or anger, and they don't snap out of it. And that's not the whole point of conscious living. You're meant to use your emotions and feelings to guide you and tell you something about your external environment, but you're supposed to regulate yourself and these emotions and then carry on with life, not being in this perpetual cycle that leads to anxiety, depression, etc.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, you've been feeling angry for this past week, for this past month. Maybe you've been feeling sad, kind of down. But why are you feeling this way? Some people go through life and they've been going through this sadness and anger for such a long time where it's almost their norm. But you have to understand, like, why is that your norm, and why should that be your norm? And the only way to change that is to, like I said, we said in the beginning, is to realize why you're feeling these ways. And this is your room for change, because you're going to understand why you're feeling this way, what actions or distractions cause you to be angry, cause you to be sad, and you want to avoid those. Later on, we're going to get a little bit into elimination, but you don't understand what you have to change until you understand the person you are. I feel like Just Be is also a good place for goal setting. It's always good to ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What is the end goal for this? Because time passes by quicker than we expect it. And if we never get to explore ourselves and really understand what drives us and why we set up these goals and why we want to achieve these goals, then it's kind of almost like we're living mundanely through life without a purpose. You're just stuck in the rat race, and you're not really doing anything complex or changing. That's why people with depression, that's why people that wake up sad or are constantly sad or angry, that's like their base. They're always in that state because they're always doing things but never understanding why they're doing it and never really understanding themselves. They're just here living life just so mundanely without ever looking introspectively into themselves.
Yeah, you bring up a great point to ask these hard questions to yourself to start developing this awareness. And one way to ask good questions is, I've recently caught myself doing this. A lot of times we go into this mental looping of the what ifs. So we have a lot going on with our lives. We get stressed out, and you go into this mental loop of, what if I'm not good enough? What if they don't like me? What if my presentation is not good? And you get into the what ifs, and that creates so much uncertainty that it just starts making your nervous system be in fight or flight. And when this is happening, you could literally just snap yourself out of it and be like, what is? So you can ask yourself these questions. What am I feeling around me? How is my body feeling? What am I hearing? And you're using these 5 senses from the external to get into the what is, not the what ifs. And when you do that, that is literally called a mindset shift, and you change your perspective to down-regulate this nervous system or down-regulate this mental looping of fearing the unknown or fearing next week or 2 days or this speech you're supposed to deliver. And that's what's so hard, Pete, because a lot of people don't understand and they can't separate the narrative of the story that you're telling yourselves. Like sometimes I'll go on a walk and I tell myself a self-limiting belief, and then I catch it, and you have to laugh about it. And on one of the 3-step formula is just acceptance. So the more you try to fight yourself with the story that you told, it's like fighting the ego. You're not going to win with it because you are just yourself. Like the roommate is what we call it. So acceptance is a big thing, and just learning to refocus, reframe the story that you told yourself, and back to just being and living consciously, but being aware that this is happening. It's like a lifelong skill, which is the movement that we're starting. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a one-time thing like, hey, listen to this podcast, I'm going to be conscious living. No, it's a constant journey of improving, getting better.
100%. Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Like you said, the 3-step formula. So you might be listening and thinking, how can you be more conscious? What is conscious living? Well, man, I created a 3-step formula that's basically attainable for anybody in life. First one is awareness, acceptance, and elimination. And you touched very well on it. You started with the 5 senses, so you use your senses to bring awareness about you and the stuff around you. Then you accept that information. Yeah, you might be overthinking things, but then so what do? You keep overthinking? No, you accept it. You laugh it off. And then, like you said, where you come in with the change, where the growth happens, that's the elimination. You eliminate things that you don't really need. So, but the first one, awareness, that's very hard to do. And that's like the first step. I feel like once you can bring awareness, then everything slowly falls into place. And you said using the 5 senses, that's basically the way that we bring awareness to everything around us and ourselves, right?
Yes, that's the main thing. And just when you're telling those narratives or stories you tell themselves, you use those 5 senses to kind of get back to your body and be like, oh, hey, I'm here. Everything's okay. Calm down. And going back to the second one, acceptance is such a big thing with social media, I feel for women so much more with the comparison game, beauty, and people being catty with themselves. There's so much going on, and you'll never be enough if you do that. There's always going to be someone that has a better body than you, that's going to be smarter than you, that could maybe read a book faster. There's always that comparison game. So you have to understand that this is not a race. There's 7 billion people. Everybody's on their own journey. Just follow your own path and accept yourself no matter where you are in life. And the more you start bringing acceptance to the way you are, the stories you tell yourself, that's when you have the ability to change those things. Because if you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I don't love myself, and you try to fight yourself, like, why do I keep telling myself? You're just going to be looping in this invisible enemy that doesn't even exist, because you are it. It's okay if you tell yourself a bad story or something that's self-limiting about yourself, because that's just a template that you are giving when your parents raised you. They passed this on like energy or frequency. So they loved you the best that they can, but there is ancestral trauma that got passed down during this time, and that's okay. Just understand that everybody has a different set of cards that you are given. So just use your set of cards that you have the best you can, accept yourself, good or bad, and just move on. And that's where things will start flowing, just like you said.
So do you think then, because you touched up based upon awareness, acceptance, and now you said you could change from where you are. So you think that feeds into the elimination portion of this?
It does, because it could be two things, right? So you could eliminate things that are happening within yourself, your internal emotions, and regulate things and accept that I'm having a self-limiting belief, and then eliminate the environment or whatever's causing it. It's just like if you want to build a habit, you can habit stack. So if I want to read a book, let's just say I go lay out on my hammock for half an hour a day.
I like hammocks.
What? Okay, great. See, so why not bring a book to that hammock and build another habit on top of that one, which will be easier because you're already going on the hammock to begin with. So all you got to do is bring the book now, and you could combine those habits to start reading 30 minutes a day. But yeah, elimination is also the thing that's externally. Once you start becoming aware of yourself, you'll start realizing things that aren't serving you anymore. And that could be friends, that could be movies, TV shows, family, unfortunately. It can be an environment. It could be all those things. So you're going to understand that you have 100% battery, and you literally have to feed energy to the proper things in your life. I think Aristotle said that arbor vacuum or whatever, so like the universe has a given amount of space that gets occupied, which is almost like your day for 24 hours. So whatever you occupy your space with, that's the reality that you're going to be. So if you're in a bad relationship that's not causing you happiness, and you don't eliminate that because you don't feel good enough about yourself to do that, well, if you spend 50% of the time with that partner, you might be 50% of the day unhappy. It is what it is. You have to practice elimination, and then sometimes it's in tough decisions in life.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a beautiful thing because that you touched upon is, first you talked about building good habits and then eliminating stuff, and that flows together. So like you're saying with the battery, you have a limit of juice you can give to certain tasks. So I like to think about it as like, cleaning your room, for example, or even getting out of a bad relationship. So I'd say, you're aware, you're accepting of yourself and your feelings, and you're just stuck in this bad relationship, for example. So think about how much time you devote to your partner that's giving you this toxicity. So let's just say it's 6 hours a day. You eliminate that 6 hours a day. It's going to be tough to eliminate it, but guess what? Now you have that 6 hours a day free. So now, like you were saying, this is where it comes into play, where you could incorporate new habits. You could now have time to spend time on your hammock and read that book. By eliminating, you're freeing up more space to do more of these positive things. So, because a lot of times I feel like when you say elimination, people are just going to think of get rid of these bad habits. Yeah, but if you're getting rid of these bad habits, what's filling the space with the bad habits? Is it other bad habits that are just as bad but different? You got to be able to fill that void with something.
Yes, and that's the purpose of conscious living, is to create habits and life experiences that serve you, give value to you, and you're able to live this purposeful life that you're enjoying, that anything can be impacting. Just like you said, choices. It could even be music. Maybe there's music that's not feeding you and making you feel good. It's wild how many things can affect us.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because I was at the gym today, and I was lifting weights, and these two guys were having a side conversation. I wasn't part of it. I was totally eavesdropping, but I was doing my thing, And they're talking about video games. Yeah, they're talking about video games. And the guy asked him, "Hey, when was the last time you played video games?" And he's like, "Oh, I haven't played video games since like 2020." And it's like, oh shit. He asked him why, and he was explaining that video games took up so much of his time, where he was not doing anything for 3 to 4 hours a day. And once he stopped, he eliminated that. So he was aware that the video games were being a distraction to him, and he wasn't getting stuff done. And he accepted that that was a problem. So he got rid of the video games. So that was awareness, acceptance, and now elimination. And then what he did to cover that time is he started working out more and started doing more jiu-jitsu and combat sports. So now instead of gaming up 3 to 4 hours a day, he's changing life, and he lost a lot of weight, and he's just really improved his life. I'm not saying video games are bad. I'm just saying that sometimes your goals, what you set your goals at, and what you're doing don't always align, and you have to realize that, hey, why is this goal not being met? It's probably because you're spending time doing other things that don't meet the needs of that goal. That's basically what he was doing. So he cut it, and then he improved his life. It's crazy.
Yeah, and honesty is a very big thing, where you have to be completely blunt with yourself. Is this
That's that awareness?
Is this not good? Yeah, it's tough questions. Sometimes you don't want to give up a habit. Maybe it could be drinking, but sometimes you have to say, hey, if I'm drinking 2 beers a day or whatever the amount is, I think this is not serving me. I need to stop, especially if you have a partner and she or he is telling you that problem. So yeah, just constantly evaluating yourself, and that's a big thing. That's I think there's a quote that says, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's why you have to daily just start slow, be persistent, and understand that this takes time. And most important thing is just showing up for yourself. If you want to practice mindfulness, you want to learn how to just be a lot more, make a habit of that 10 minutes of breathing. Even though it sucks, make the time, commit, show up for yourself. And just like working out, you train this muscle and it gets stronger and stronger. And ultimately, one day you wake up, you're like, wow, I just got some self-awareness. I just stopped that nasty thought I was telling myself. And then you look in the mirror and give yourself a high five.
I just want to give one more example, because we've had this crazy change that happened to us over the past years, with all that happened with, the crisis, we're going to call it. And people started staying in more. They started kind of losing track of their lives. And, if you're in that point of your life, I just want to give an example of how all this plays into effect. So let's just say during this crisis, this hard time, you've been spending a lot of time at home, not being very productive, maybe watching TV, just not really doing anything specific to meet your goals. Maybe you feel like you've been slacking, like you're lazy, for example. So like where awareness plays into this fact is you realize, like, hey, I'm watching TV, I'm watching the news, I'm watching YouTube for 3 to 4 hours a day. I haven't been to the gym in the last year and a half. I haven't done anything productive in the last year and a half. I just been kind of going to my job. Like, I feel lazy. I feel like I'm unproductive. That's the awareness aspect. And then acceptance is you telling yourself, like, hey, I'm a lazy piece of crap for not doing anything for the last year and a half. That's the acceptance. Like, yeah, I'm here slacking off. I accept I'm slacking off, but I'm also realizing that there is a tomorrow, that there is a next day that could change this. Like, I accept that I'm at this bad spot and I put myself in this bad spot. But I'm also accepting that since I put myself in this bad spot, I get myself out of this bad spot. And then rolls into beautifully elimination, where you're like, all right, cutting this off, cutting off this junk food, cutting off this TV, cutting off this person, whatever it is, this thing. And now I'm going to introduce something else. I'm going to work on my breathing a little bit more, because I've noticed that I've been a little bit more anxious at work because I haven't been able to get this steam out of my system. So now I'm going to do some Wim Hof methods. I'm going to start meditating more. I'm going to take baths. You're eliminating that Netflix stuff, and you're now bringing in that more relaxation and thinking within kind of aspect of where your life should be and could be.
Yes, 100%. And just like you said with Just Be, is setting goals, being honest with yourself, time and consistency, and you have no idea when you do those and that 3-step formula what kind of positive impact you're going to have in your life. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you guys find value in the show and what we talk about, please share with your loved ones. Give us a review. It means the world to us. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, see you guys on the third pillar.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and want to support the podcast,
please subscribe, leave us a comment, or give us a like on all platforms
at We Are Frontline Warriors.